So firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone for joining in this launch event of the SAIEE Africa Research Journal on IEEE Xplore. I'm joined this afternoon in South Africa, morning in parts of the United States, or afternoon, I suppose, in some parts, with Kathy Land, who is the IEEE president, with John Treichler. John is the IEEE Foundation president, with Karen Golucci, the exec lead for the IEEE Foundation. Also, Naveen Medalie has joined us, who is the Senior Product Manager, Planning and Implementation, IEEE Global Product and Marketing. From the SAIEE side, we have the President, Professor Sunil Maharaj, who has joined, and also the Acting CEO, who is Leonetse Matritane, and Leonetse has joined us, and we have the South Africa section chair of IEEE, David Oyadakun, Dr. David Oyadakun, and we of course have a number of council members of the SAIEE. Council is similar to the board, just for those that may be less familiar with the nomenclature. We have some of the staff members from IEEE as well as from SAIEE that have come in. And we are really here to place on record the launch of the SAIEE Africa Research Journal on IEEE Xplore. And this journal also is the journal that we say incorporating the SAIEE Transactions. And that, I think, is a significant component. My name is Saurabh Sinha. I am the managing editor and volunteer for the SAIEE, and also a volunteer of the IEEE in multiple roles. I thought I will start by doing a brief recap of what our journey has been. Professor Maharaj during the kind of the preface was talking about the cooperation agreement between IEEE and the SAIEE. This set of agreements started in the late 90s. Just for those of you that are less familiar, the IEEE South Africa section was started in 1977. So it's been a number of years, more than a couple of decades, in which the IEEE South Africa section has been active. And the link with the SAIEE has been a very important link, particularly as a link that brings many people from industry on board. In around about 2010, the IEEE Ad Hoc Committee on Africa Activities was launched, and I had the privilege of being part of that ad hoc committee. It was the ad hoc of the IEEE board. And we started to look at what are mechanisms that could be utilized to not only, to bring about research that is, there was great recognition that there is a strong research presence on the continent, but what could be one vehicle? There are a couple of vehicles that are there. There's also conferences like AFRICON, and a number of other activities. At one stage, IEEE South Africa section organized almost 80 activities in a given year. So fairly a large number of events. And similarly, the South African Institute has an event probably almost on a daily basis. So there are a lot of activities that are taking place, but of key importance was what is that avenue which could be used in terms of peer review, journal level articles, and this is where the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers had a journal called the Transactions of the SAIEE, which started in 1909. So over 110, well, about 110 years, over 110 years. Sorry, I got my math wrong there. And the SAIEE Africa Research Journal was a journal that was launched in 2005. It's the one key difference that was present in the latter was the component of Africa. So it was much more encompassing and inclusive, but separately, it also had to do with the journal taking an open access route. We started to publish the Africa Research Journal on the SAIEE website. Of course, it was not as as widely distributed as is when a journal is placed on IEEE Xplore. And so we started to explore those avenues round about 2011, actually, at one of the Region 8 conferences. Peer review and quality assurance is a key feature that we associate when it comes to journals or publications on the IEEE Xplore database. And so we really went through a very rigorous process when it comes to assuring, among others, the Technical Activities Board and the Publication Services and Products Board of IEEE to provide assurance that the peer review process yielded in the same way as it would when we look at any other IEEE journal. So we really had to expand our editorial board. We brought about a number of people who are active in editorial processes of IEEE journals. And that entire process of different stages and steps within IEEE took approximately 7 years for us to be able to get that. But I must say and really acknowledge the volunteer community as well as the staff colleagues that throughout the process, we looked at different steps, and there were different things and different, I wouldn't want to call it hurdles, because they were all in the interest of ensuring very high quality publications. Then we ran into a hurdle in terms of funding, because our desire had always been to have articles as far back as 1909. And it was here that two Karens met, which is Karen Hawkins as well as Karen Gallucci. And here we actually were able to identify a fund within IEEE which could be used to fund the backfile or the archive process. And this was over 100 years. It was a complex process, as many of our articles were, some of them were scanned, but some were not scanned, and some were in libraries and needed to be scanned. And we needed to also ensure a process that will allow for optical character recognition so that articles can be picked up by search engines. So the foundation came in, the IEEE Africa Council also came in, and Africa Council helped to bring about some initial seed funding to support the SAIEE Africa Research Journal. But there were some great opportunities that they brought forward, which was the work that we've done with East Africa, with other parts of Southern Africa, and also with West Africa, to try and have the journal a lot more inclusive in terms of its editorial composition, but also in terms of the articles. We then expanded, because we went open access, to also have an article processing charge, and various South African universities support the journal through paying for their authors the article processing charges. The editorial process has continued to evolve, and the University of Johannesburg had procured an open journal system, and they extended for staff members like myself, who are also involved in different editorial processes, to be able to use that administrative interface to manage the larger volumes of articles. That is kind of a natural process when a journal is placed on IEEE Xplore, that it does have a strong global reach in addition to the regional reach that it would formerly have. So the author community and the editorial board both continue to be global. So sometimes I like to see the SAIEE journal as a glocal, where the best in terms of peer review work that takes place locally is, on the one hand, globalized, and on the other hand, work and collaborations that take place are also featured in the Africa Research Journal. But of course, work that has been done elsewhere in the world is also looked at and reviewed independently and is published. So although it is the Africa Research Journal, it is not exclusive of research that takes place in other parts of the world. The journal is indexed by Scopus and by Cite-Keller, which means that it also has a footprint within the Web of Science in the emerging citation index. And we are hoping very soon that it will also be listed as in the directory of open access journals, or DOAJ. In South Africa, this indexing is important because authors who are affiliated to public higher education institutions are able to get some subsidy when they publish in a journal which are on these lists. And so we are quite proud that we have, we are on these lists. And part of the reason for that is the listing or the publication through IEEE Xplore. Lastly, I also am very much a fan of, we are of course all a fan of IEEE Xplore, and therefore you will see that we have archived a story, and I just want to acknowledge here Professor Maharaj, who has been a very encouraging force behind the link and the relation with IEEE, but also Professor Beatrice Lacquet, who in fact brought me on board as a volunteer in 2008 for the SAIEE. And in particular for this journal, and she's been the editor-in-chief and highly supportive of the work that we do together. Today is also Giving Tuesday, and I want to really acknowledge the IEEE Foundation. I picked up this chart a bit earlier, so Karen, this may be a little bit late. Well, it may be, you may have already reached your goal of $60,000. If not, there is that opportunity, and there's no problem if we do exceed that goal. And I simply say that and state that because, of course, the IEEE Foundation has been a mega force in realizing some of the ambitions of the SAIEE. So with that, I want to turn over to Professor Maharaj, who is the president of the SAIEE. And in his day job, we are actually both what we are called Deputy Vice Chancellors. I'm at the University of Johannesburg, and he is DVC or Vice Principal at the University of Pretoria for the research portfolio. So with that, let me turn over to you, Professor Maharaj.
Thank you, Professor Sinha. Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor Maharaj, you're coming very well.
Okay, thank you. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues from different parts of the globe. Certainly, I'd like to acknowledge the IEEE President, Ms. Lend, and of course the IEEE Foundation President, and the IEEE Foundation Executive and other colleagues from IEEE, our office bearers from the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, our acting CEO, and other members at large. Thank you very much, and this is indeed a very momentous occasion for us, and something we're very proud of. As you know, as Professor Sinha mentioned, the SAIEE, the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, was founded in 1909, so we're 112 years young, or 112 years old, as you can see, and it has grown with over 5,000 members. We had over 6,000 members. Given COVID, it has impacted our membership a bit, but that membership is now growing again. And of course, our members are professionally engaged in the broader electrical engineering fraternity, whether it's in the IT or power engineering or other areas of electrical engineering. And of course, our members are involved in academic research, manufacturing, electronics, telecoms, measurement, control, mining, power and infrastructure services. And now as recent as this, we got what we call a nuclear chapter as well. So they are making a meaningful contribution to the quality of life to the community, mainly in South Africa and the continent at large. And of course, we are steadily advancing technology and human capacity building in South Africa. And certainly, we're very proud of the work we are doing as an institute in South Africa, and to some extent in the African continent. And we're hoping to grow that much more going down the line. But certainly for today, I think for us, why it's a great and momentous occasion is because I think, if my information is correct, we're one of very few organizations of transactions that are part of the IEEE Xplore stable that is backdating to my information tells me we were probably one of three, starting with the transactions of the AEE, and then in 1905 the proceedings of the AIEE, now the IEEE Spectrum, and 1909 the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers Africa Research Journal. And for us, we're very proud of that, but more importantly, I think we're very grateful to IEEE and IEEE Foundation and the volunteers and staff there for supporting us financially and other ways to make this happen. And you know, we may have great ideas, but how do we realize those great ideas to the people that we interact with? And for that, we are extremely grateful for. And certainly, I'd like to thank also the SAIEE Council for their vision and their support, and the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers team under the acting CEO and the staff there for helping us, and University of Johannesburg for their support, particularly Professor Sinha, who has been very instrumental in making sure that certain things as managing editor for the journal has, in terms of quality, in terms of stature, in terms of making sure we get things on time, and we get good representation of local and global reviewers for papers. And that was very important for us to improve the stature and the quality of the journal and the papers that we accept. And certainly we have grown in leaps and bounds over the last 112 years. And that has shown and augur very well for us as the Institute. And we're hoping for that to grow further. As Professor Sinha mentioned, we have a good relationship with the IEEE, and certainly through the IEEE South Africa section and the IEEE Africa Council, and especially with the IEEE Communication Society. We also have a formal MOU with the IEEE Communication Society, where the president of the ComSoc visits us once a year at least, and does a series of lectures, but that hasn't happened in the last 2 years, unfortunately. And of course, as Professor Sinha mentioned, when the IEEE president generally comes to South Africa and Southern Africa, visits some of the local countries in this area, and we have this great interaction and sharing of resources and sharing of expertise. And as you know, we have a very small community in South Africa, so hence we need to make sure we maximize that and share that, so that we have a benefit and impact for society at large, and the society we lead in this particular part of the world. And for that, we are very grateful to IEEE, and we're hoping through the president and future presidents and the past presidents to grow this, sustain this, and cement this, so that we continue to serve humanity in the future as well. And thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the presentations by the IEEE president and the foundation. Thank you, Professor Sinha.
Thank you very much, Professor Maharaj, for that presentation. I want to introduce Mrs. Kathy Land. Mrs. Land is the 2021 IEEE President and CEO. She is an IEEE Fellow. She has more than 30 years of industry experience in application of software engineering methodologies, the management of information systems, leadership of software development teams, and I think the majority of her experience has been within the defense sector in the United States. I've had the great privilege of serving with Kathy Land on the IEEE board around about 2014. Kathy, it's a great honor for us that you've been able to join us this evening. Kathy, turning over to you.
Thank you so much. I would like to wish a good evening to our IEEE members across South Africa who are joining us today. And I'd like to begin by thanking Professor Sinha for the invitation to participate in this celebration. It is indeed a celebration. And I did have the good fortune to serve with you on the board of directors. It seems like yesterday. Time does fly, but it was in 2014. And it is my pleasure to join you today, recognizing the launch of the SAIEE Africa Research Journal on IEEE Xplore. I would like to acknowledge both the IEEE Africa Council and the IEEE Foundation for their efforts and contributions in support of African authors. The SAIEE Africa Research Journal, incorporating the SAIEE Transactions, has met a major international milestone. It is now listed in IEEE Xplore as one of the oldest electrical engineering journals globally. This inclusion constitutes an extremely impressive historical archive. The journal, initiated as the Transactions of the SAIEE Journal in 1909, and covers all areas of electrical engineering and in relation of IEEE designated fields. It is also the only peer-reviewed journal in the local electrical engineering sector in South Africa. This has been a tremendous effort, as you heard earlier, led by our dedicated IEEE volunteers for nearly 10 years. So it's an outstanding example of how IEEE is built on the strength of our members and their volunteer efforts throughout the organization. Our volunteers are a tremendous asset to the organization, and I have found that my own volunteer activities are one of the best benefits I receive as a member. IEEE is centered on our members and volunteers, and this is these individuals create the value of IEEE. They guide the organization's direction, allow IEEE to have such a strong impact on the world, and guide our mission to support technology for the benefit of humanity. Whether it's writing the papers, editing journals, doing publications, working to develop standards, making policy visits to global capitals around the world, it's all done by our volunteers and members in partnership with staff. So for more than 20 years ago, I made the choice to become involved in IEEE, and it turned out to be one of the best choices I made in my life. My membership in IEEE has helped define who I am, both personally and professionally. It was my experience as a volunteer that encouraged me to devote my time and energy to IEEE. And I know that every volunteer I meet values being part of our technical professional community. The strength of IEEE is built from the bottom up. Those who attend local meetings share their knowledge and experience and help with the heavy lifting of coordinating and communicating IEEE activities are the ones who make IEEE strong. IEEE is committed to working cooperatively, not competitively, with local organizations and countries throughout the world. These partnerships have been successful by remaining flexible and responsive to different cultures, thought processes, languages, and political structures. These collaborative discussions between the SAIEE and IEEE started nearly 2 decades ago. This cooperation is designed to assist in the development and elevation of technical skills, image, professional growth, and networking, and enhancing the professional and personal growth of a country's engineers in related fields of interest. At its core, that is what the IEEE is about and will always be about. A group of technologists coming together, sharing a belief that if we all work in concert, we can make an improvement in the lives of others. We look forward to additional collaboration related to global standards activities, conferences, technical meetings, professional development, and STEM activities. My years of membership and volunteer service at IEEE have reinforced for me that the relevance and importance of professional associations. There is a significance in being part of a group of people with a shared purpose that goes beyond one's own personal interests and current career. And I would be remiss if I did not thank all of you who proudly call yourselves IEEE members. Your enthusiasm in being members and joining together in virtual communities, participating in our webinars, writing for our journals, and continuing to move our professions forward is greatly appreciated. I want to also acknowledge the many volunteer leaders who have served on the boards of our major committees, sections, societies, and councils, and thank all who agreed to dedicate their time to the work being done by our regions and chapters and branches. As a whole, there were thousands of volunteers at all levels this year who said yes when asked to serve. The organization owes all of you a debt of gratitude for your efforts. It remains clear that this is our community, that our people, that is the core strength of IEEE. And that strength starts at the personal level. It starts with people giving freely of their time, their energy in support of their professions and their colleagues. It starts with people with a passion for advancing technology. It starts with people with a desire to benefit humanity, and with people willing to not only lead, but to mentor those around them, and to empower and inspire the next generation of engineering and technology leaders. As a person who believes in the power of technology to benefit humanity, I find this to be a very compelling vision. And before I wrap up today, I want to once again thank all of you for your dedication and perseverance this year. And I would like to again share my sincere thank you. And congratulations to IEEE and SAIEE. The volunteers who worked so tirelessly in seeing this major international milestone to fruition, congratulations and thank you again. I strongly believe this is to the benefit of both organizations, and we'll all be better for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for those kind words, and also to reflect on the works, those that we have done and those that we will continue to do. And I absolutely, the volunteer and staff component, and that link remains very key. With that, I want to now introduce Dr. John Treichler. Dr. John Treichler is the IEEE Foundation Board President. Dr. Treichler is also the president of, in his day job, the president of the Raytheon Applied Signal Technology Business Unit. He is an elected fellow of IEEE and very active in a number of ways, including in the Signal Processing Society, where he at one stage received the Technical Achievement Award, and as well as the Industrial Leadership Award. He is also an elected member of the United States National Academy of Engineering. With a Raytheon background, he, like Kathy, also has a defense background in the United States. So with that, let me turn over to you, Dr. Treichler.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is John Treichler, and yes, I'm an IEEE Life Fellow, and I am the president of the IEEE Foundation and chair of the board, at least for about another month. As with Kathy, we are finishing up our current terms, and we both have the opportunity to help another year or so as past presidents, but we both look back upon the work we've done with a great smile. And we look toward y'all with an even larger smile, looking at all the work you've done over the last 10 years to make this come true. I'm humbled to be taking a part of this celebration, and I'm proud that the role that the IEEE Foundation had in making it possible. I have a lot to say about this, but to keep us on schedule, I'll contract it a bit. Let me just point out that as the IEEE's philanthropic partner, the foundation inspires charitable investment wherever it can find it, that hopefully unleashes the power of the IEEE social good programs to deploy human and intellectual resources worldwide. We split our work philosophically into helping illuminate the world about technology, to educate others, and also help educate our own future engineers to join the organization. A part of what we're celebrating today is an aspect of that education of the community and ourselves. We also try to engage broader audiences to understand about electrical engineering and science in general, computer science and so forth, that makes the big tent of the IEEE and the IEEE. And we also energize, and that's our term for supporting awards and other recognitions of great work that people have done for the field and to help our organization going. And student organizations like the IEEE Tau Beta Pi, pardon me, Eddie Kappa Nu, slipped there. Okay, the key message today is that an important part of our mission is to prudently and diligently manage donations that are entrusted us. Sometimes these this requires judgments on our part. And fortunately, with respect to the SAIEE and this very important effort to go back to 1909 and bring everything into IEEE Xplore, this was one of those great places where we could, given the objectives and vision of the foundation, work with your folks in order to find a way to provide some funding to do the the hard work of moving everything from 1909 up to the current day. So as engineers, scientists, and innovators, we know how important this is. The technical knowledge and the information through publications, it plays a very important part in benefiting humanity to make sure that the information is spread around in the most democratic way possible. The foundation is honored to have helped source the funding to undertake the Herculean effort. And we just think it's a good thing all the way around. And as President Land said, we can't say enough about the volunteers who worked so hard to make this all come true. Our part, the foundation's part, was, I'll say small but important in order to help find money to make this come true. But it would have never come true without the energies of the volunteers, and we applaud you. Thank you for making this milestone possible.
Thank you very much, Dr. Treichler, for that input. Really appreciate the support of the IEEE Foundation. I'm now going to turn over to Naveen Medalie, who has been one of my key allies. That's how I like to think of you when it comes to getting this mammoth task completed. And you've stuck with this project for multiple years in being able to get where we are. And so if I can bring Naveen in, and if I could just ask the others to remain on mute if you're not speaking. So over to you, Naveen.
Great, thank you so much. So my name is Naveen Medalie. I'm a senior product manager at IEEE. I'm part of IEEE's marketing, sales, and design department. And my role has been to manage and develop strategic partnerships that IEEE has with other publishers and organizations. And as Professor Sinha had mentioned, we've been initially started speaking in 2017 about a partnership between IEEE and SAIEE. So, you know, IEEE Xplore, where the journal is hosted now, has always been a leading resource for researchers and engineers and technical professionals in electrical engineering, computer science fields. With over 5.5 million documents in the database, it covers research and development efforts from around the globe. But you know, historically, most of these efforts have been, you know, in North America, Europe, and more recently in Asia. There had been a little bit of a gap in the research and development efforts in Africa, and you know, maybe it was underrepresented. But that's where this partnership with SAIEE has been fantastic. So this came into place in 2017, and by having this the Africa Research Journal be part of the Xplore database, we've been able to fill that gap and been able to disseminate this valuable research to our the millions of visitors that visit IEEE Xplore from around the globe. And it feels like the perfect partnership. And I know IEEE at large is very proud to have this journal as part of its portfolio and to be working with SAIEE. And personally, I'm also very pleased to be part of this project and want to thank Professor Sinha for including me in this event. You know, when we first formed this partnership in 2017, it was just for a few hundred articles from the Africa Research Journal, some of the more recent ones, and the newly published ones. But then probably a year or so ago, we started talking about integrating the deeper back file of the journal, which goes back to 1909. So now we have over 6,000 articles from the Africa Research Journal and Xplore. And this has important historic and strategic value, and it has provided a great benefit to all users of IEEE Xplore. So I just want to thank everyone for helping to make that happen. And I've seen that the usage of the journal has actually almost doubled since the back file was added. So the dissemination of this valuable content is definitely been happening. So as Professor Sinha had indicated, this was no small feat, and there were a lot of different staff members and volunteers who were involved in this project. So first, I want to acknowledge Professor Sinha for bringing this forward and connecting all the correct people together and making this all happen. I also want to acknowledge the foundation, IEEE Foundation, for their being receptive and quick to agree to funding this project. So Karen and her team have been very instrumental in making this happen. I want to especially acknowledge the IEEE Publications Department. They've done all the hard work to bring the articles into Xplore. There was a lot of testing of files and samples and coordinating with vendors and scheduling delivery. So it's all hard work. So I want to acknowledge their efforts in all of this. And then I will also like to acknowledge Karen Hawkins, IEEE's Chief Marketing Officer, who was one of the initiators of the arrangement between IEEE and SAIEE. So we're very pleased to have the journal in Xplore. We look forward to growing the usage of it and growing the visibility of the Africa Research Journal and the research efforts in Africa at large to the wider IEEE community. So again, I just want to thank Professor Sinha for inviting me to this event. Thank you.
Thanks once again, Naveen, medalie, and to everyone who could join us this evening for celebrating with us this launch. Could I ask those of you that are available and comfortable to, if you don't mind, to switch on your camera for a moment? We would love to take a picture of this engagement, if that's okay. And I understand fully if you're unable to switch on your camera for different reasons. And so I see Vikas is here as well. Vikas works for UJ Press, and also to the council members and to the CEO. Professor Maharaj, if you're cutting just slightly, there you go. Okay. So, and again, just your permission, because we have also through Minx Avrabos, who helps us and has been a key partner in our layout processes, and Kharda Khair. I was hoping, Kharda, that you will also switch on your video, but that's okay. And just to take an image, and we will, of course, we will be publishing this. Here you are, Kharda. Kharda has been, Kharda and I have worked, it just really feels like forever, I think even before 2008. So really appreciate the work. So I've just taken a screenshot and we will be sending this around to everyone that could join us. Thank you again, all, and all the best with the COVID-19 period, wherever you are, in whichever part of the world you are in. And for those of you that are in South Africa, we are now entering into our summer period. I know that it's cold in the US at the moment. So all the best with the weather period. I know it will be very pleasant here in South Africa, and I know it will be in a little bit later in the US, maybe in 2 or 3 months, I guess. Okay, so with that, thank you again and take care. Bye-bye, everyone.